One of the biggest intelligence threats to the United States, and this is not new, this has been decades, 80 years, is the threat of counterintelligence. You know, if you recruit a Russian, a Chinese, a Cuban, an Iranian, a North Korean, whoever, you always have to worry that you didn't actually recruit them. They allowed you to recruit them so that they could be double agents and report back to their home services.
In this recent interview with John Kiriakou on the Joe Mkhitaryan show, the former CIA officer exposes how Afghanistan's transformation into the world's heroin capital was no accident. He reveals how U.S. intelligence and military not only allowed, but encouraged poppy cultivation, weaponizing drugs to destabilize rival nations.
In 1972, he said, with your reputation as a whistleblower, I want you to come here and head investigations, and I want you to go hard. And I said, great, I'm your guy. So we shook hands. I started working 2 weeks later. And every time I got close to something, he'd say, yeah, you're gonna kill this investigation.
He told you?
Every single time.
Personally.
And I'll give you another example. I said to a colleague of mine, I think I'm gonna go to Afghanistan next week. I wanna do a study on the heroin poppy crop, right? As recently as the late 1970s, Afghanistan was a net food exporter. They grew so much food, they were exporting it to Pakistan. I don't know if you've ever been to Afghanistan,
No, I have not.
but the entire country is just like a giant sandbox. And then there are these rivers that run through it, and then on the banks of the rivers, it's completely green. They were able to grow so much food, they could feed every Afghan and export it to Pakistan. It's incredible. Now, or in 2009, for as far as the eye can see, nothing but heroin poppy. And they had to import almost 100% of their food, right? People's children don't have shoes. They don't have enough to eat. But man, they've got 93% of the world's heroin. Can you imagine that? It's intentional.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind that the Taliban banned the cultivation of heroin poppy. So in 2000, Afghanistan accounted for 0% of the world's heroin.
This is
in 2009.
0%.
Is it 2009? 2000 is 0. 2009, 93%. So I fly out to Kabul, and there was a helicopter waiting for me and took me to Bagram. This was the only time in my entire career that I ever pulled rank on somebody. They said, listen, we're not going to take you to the poppy fields. It's too dangerous. And I said, no, you are going to take me. No, it's too dangerous. And I said, listen, with all due respect, and I hate to do this, it's not my nature, but being a senior staff member on a congressional oversight committee, I have brigadier general 1-star status. So I'm ordering you to fly me to Kandahar and then to Lashkar Gah and then back to Bagram. So they did it. We go to Kandahar, and it was just a day of meetings in the base there. And I met, the Afghans. They're all liars and criminals and, narco traffickers. And then we flew to Lashkar Gah to something called the PRT, the Provisional Reconstruction, I forget what T stands for. It's a State Department function where they put you in the most isolated places in a country, and then you work with the locals to dig water wells, put up a windmill. Yeah. So we fly in, and I got lucky. I knew I was going to get lucky because the head of the PRT in Lashkar Gah was a friend of mine from the State Department. So he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I'm getting real pushback from these guys. They don't want to do any of this.
In this same interview, after returning from Afghanistan, Kiriakou's report blaming the CIA and military is buried. A senior DEA official confirms the truth. The heroin is meant to flood Iran and Russia, weakening their societies. Kiriakou draws a chilling parallel to China's fentanyl strategy against the U.S., showing how great powers use drugs as silent weapons.
because I was asking questions that made them very uncomfortable. Who's protecting the heroin fields?
Got it.
And I don't like the Taliban any more than you do.
Yeah.
But there was zero heroin under the Taliban.
I got
And there's 93% heroin under the American government. So that's what I'm getting to. I said, I want to go out into the fields and I want to talk to a poppy farmer. He said, let's go. We had a couple of Jeeps. We had security. We had a translator. I don't speak Pashto. So we go out into the fields. And I mean, as far as your eyes can possibly see, it's just an ocean of heroin poppy. So sure enough, we see a poppy farmer. Mm-hmm. And we go up to him, Salamu alaikum. And we get out, and he's like, who are you? So I said, I'm from the Congress in Washington. And I want to talk to you about the poppy. He's like, okay, what about the poppy? And I asked a very stupid question. It wasn't stupid, it was naive. I said, why would you grow poppy when you can grow vegetables with 2 growing seasons, like tomatoes or onions or pomegranates? You can cultivate them and then
export them,
reap them twice in a year and export them. And he goes like this. He goes, the Americans told me in 2001 that if I told them where the Arabs were, I could grow all the poppy I wanted. And I said, what American told you could grow poppy? And the security guy says, meeting over. And he grabs me by the arm and he physically pulls me back to the Jeep. So we go back to the PRT. Oh, it's too dangerous. There's a threat on your... There was no threat. Nobody knew we were coming. We get back on the helicopter, fly all the way back to Bagram. The next day, I go back to Kabul, fly to Dubai, and then from Dubai to Washington. So I went to see Kerry the day after I got back, and I said, listen, it's a bad situation out there. 93% of the world's heroin. He's like, my God, I didn't even know it was that bad. It's incredible. It's blah, 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 blah. So I write this paper, and I point the finger right at the CIA and the U.S. military. And before I gave it to Kerry, I sent it to a friend of mine at DEA. I had these 2 friends who worked at a secret DEA facility way out in the sticks, way out in rural Virginia. You'd never have any idea it was a government office. And I said, read this, let me know what you think. So he calls me back, and he says, buddy, you know you're never going to get this published, right? And I said, why? I said, I'm the chief investigator. And he says, look, Afghanistan produces 93% of the world's heroin. Right, I said. He said, all of that heroin goes to Iran and Russia, and we want them to be addicted to heroin. It weakens their societies. It weakens their cultures. It makes them easier to beat.
And this is coming from
we have to fight them.
DEA.
Yeah, a DEA senior officer.
Wow.
And sure enough, Kerry says, on second thought, I don't think it really does any good for us to publish this paper. It's angry and it points the finger, and I think we should probably it's just too hard to get it from Afghanistan all the way to the United States when it can just come right up through Mexico. But then make a comparison here. Why won't the Chinese stop the flow of fentanyl to the United States? I'll give you one guess. Because it weakens our society and it makes us easier to beat if we have to fight them in a war.
The real story of Afghanistan, as revealed in this conversation with John Kiriakou on the Joe Mkhitaryan show, isn't just about war. It's about covert strategies, hidden agendas, and the weaponization of entire economies. Kiriakou's revelations force us to question what else is happening behind the curtain and who really pays the price for these secret wars.